Okay, let's try that one more time with feeling. I do so love it when things change in the middle of the week. Wednesday, April 8th seems like a really good time for Facebook to change everything. So awesome. So, around here at work, we are developing the capability to work within the vagaries of our friend Facebook. Though I really shouldn't complain because I have to tell you, Facebook allows all of this stuff for free. I know they're gathering all our data and selling all sorts of stuff to us, but anyway, it seems rude to complain. So here we are for our daily live. We are talking about developing capabilities. And and what a better day than to talk about developing the capabilities around work than Wednesday. Happy hump day, everybody. And today's about the day in the week where it all gets really kind of hard for most of us. And that is true for me. I am currently fighting the government contracting system. And I'm not fighting it so much. I mean, it's all going. It just doesn't all go at the pace that I wish it would go. Well, right. And that is true of so much of what we do. So anyway, but that is, but that's a perfect foray into talking about what the topic is at hand today. So the topic at hand today is all about telling ourselves the truth about work. Now, this is going to seem like a very fraught conversation for a lot of people right now. This is not a comfortable conversation for a lot of people. It's been an uncomfortable conversation for a lot of people for a long time, though, because there is as a woman, as a CEO, as a mom, there's a significant work burden, both emotional work burden and actual work burden, that is placed on women in many, many societies. Okay. And here's the deal is I am not saying you should accept that. And this is one of the things that, I've gotten feedback on this. There's a really big difference between telling yourself the truth about something and accepting that it is a fact and accepting that that is the way you want it to be. Okay? I totally get the difference between those two things. But we can't create the world that we want to create. We can't create the life we want to create. We can't create the businesses that we want to create or the families that we want to create unless we accept where we are right now, right? And we tell ourselves the truth. I think that's, when I talk about presence, acceptance, and sufficiency, I use those words because they're an easy foray, or a comparatively easy foray, into feeling a whole lot better about what's going on in your life right now. Coronavirus is going on in a lot of our lives right now, and it doesn't feel good. We are getting reports of people who are dying. We are getting reports of the massive economic fallout and how the stimulus package is being implemented or not implemented and all of that sort of stuff. And I am working with people all the time to help them see the world as it is. And when you can see the world as it is, it doesn't mean you think it shouldn't change, okay? But you're going to come to that change. You're going to be able to affect that change so very much more powerfully if you accept reality as it is, okay? So I'm thinking of all the people who have implemented massive change in our societies. Elizabeth Cady Stanton, Gandhi, Martin Luther King, other people, there are tons of workaday people who have created massive opportunity and massive change. I'm in the middle of watching Self-Made. It's the story inspired by Madam C.J. Walker. And if she had spent her whole entire life arguing about what should be about the Jim Crow South, she never would have gotten where she was. She took what is and went out and changed it. She didn't spend her time arguing about what should be. And that's the difference that I am talking about, okay? And when you come from a place of what is and then what I want, you come from a true place of power. And that's what we're discussing here. That is what we are creating in our possibility, in our starting to tell ourselves the truth. Okay? And so what does that in fact look like when it comes to work? Well, we're going to start. So I'm a mom, I'm a CEO, I'm all those, I'm all the things that I am, and I divide my work a couple of different ways. So I have the work I do on myself, I have the work I do on the business, and I have the work that I do in the family. I think that there are probably a lot of you out there that have those different sorts of divisions in your lives, because you are all doing various things. You all wear various hats. And it's important to know that just because you're not getting a paycheck doesn't mean you're not working. I mean, the sheer volume of unpaid labor going on right now is really quite something. Okay, and so I think that it's really important to create that distinction, that work is not defined as a paycheck. As a matter of fact, when I have coaching clients who are really struggling with this concept, I do an exercise with them. So if you're wondering what work is, all right, I want you, when you're listening to this, to get up and go to the nearest wall, and I want you to press on it as hard as you possibly can. Okay? Press on that wall as hard as you possibly can. Okay? And when your arms hurt and you are out of breath, I want you to sit back down. All right? And I want you to think about how much work you just did. And I want you to write down how much work you think you did. Because the truth of the matter is, you didn't do any. Okay? Work in physics is defined as force times distance. If you didn't create any distance, you literally, by Newtonian physics, did no work. Okay? Now, you'll notice force times distance has nothing to do with the paycheck and everything to do with results, right? If you are in the business of creating results in your life, you're in the business of work, okay? You are absolutely in the business of work. Kids are not in the business of work. They're really not they are not creating results by and large until they start going to school, or they start learning to read, or they start learning how to do chores and things like that. We always have that conversation around here. It isn't enough to say, Mom, I did my chores. You actually have to create a result, right? You actually have to move that distance, okay? And one of the ways to start thinking about your work is, what results are you creating? What results are you creating in your, I'm just going to use the way I divvy my life up. In managing your mind, what results are you creating in terms of your paid labor, and what results are you creating in terms of your unpaid labor? Because if you're not creating results, if you are not moving across a distance, you aren't doing any work, okay? There may be some truth in there that you might want to tell yourself. And there are probably some nouns and verbs that you can use. And so let's go through a couple of questions about what that actually looks like. And so in my power group this month, I did we did a time audit. So for the past 24 hours, what did you go and do? Okay, and the results have all been really pretty staggering because the question the very first question is that if you really had to, if you put like a lawyer hat on, okay, and you had to account for your time in 6 minute segments, would you be able to? I've actually done this. I did this study. This is interesting. I did this study with medical students at Yale. Oh God, when I was in vet school at some point, I was home for like 6 weeks, and I worked at Yale, and I followed medical students around, and I showed up when they rounded, and I stayed there. I stayed at Yale New Haven Hospital for hours, and I didn't go in when they were having like deep patient conversations and things like that. But I absolutely sat outside and I timed it. And I timed the amount of time of I did essentially a time motion study. And you know what those medical students were doing most of the day? They were on the phone, waiting for people to get back to them, waiting for the nutritionist to go see, like to talk to the nutritionist so nutrition could go talk to the patient. They were there was a lot of time spent waiting for social workers and waiting on hold for social workers and leaving messages for social workers and not actually talking to social workers, right? Lots and lots and lots of time spent on the phone trying to organize discharges and all of those sorts of things. And maybe that is the job of the medical students, but when I presented at Grand Rounds, the results of the data, everybody was completely floored by what we did. And just the sheer, I mean, the medical students were appalled because at Grand Rounds, everybody agreed the job of medical students is to learn how to be doctors. It's not to hang out on the phone, okay? And so when we start looking at work, the question is how many hours are you actually working when you are working? Do you have what we call focus time? Or are you trying to multitask? Now, I totally get that we've got our kids at home, all right, and that it feels like we have to be multitasking, but the truth of the matter is that our brains do not multitask. Okay. And one of the ways that you can start telling yourself the truth about your work habits is maybe just jot down the time when you were multitasking and trying to do multiple tasks at once versus sitting there and being super focused. So for example, I think I talked about this on the live yesterday, but my June workbook, like I'm almost done with my June workbook, and I sat down yesterday to try and get my June workbook done, and I had like a chat come through and all these different sorts of things. Well, if I'm really truly honest about my time, like I am every day, like what did I schedule to do yesterday? What did I actually do? During the time where I was supposed to be working on my June workbook, I was chatting with an employee. I was literally not multitasking. You can't actually multitask. And so if you do, I highly recommend doing a time audit, okay? And then asking yourself what results you created. Now, it can be very easy on a day-to-day basis when you're like this close to your kids and your kids are little, okay, to say, I didn't make any results at all. And it's very easy to see this minute incremental like change as not getting any results at all. And one of the best things that you can do when you're working on telling yourself the truth is to look at a bigger picture, like zoom out, okay? We have a saying in our house that we can survive like 2 weeks of anything. And with our kids, I mean, even with our 12-year-old, right? Like nothing really lasts much longer than 2 weeks. And we develop a lot of capabilities in the space of 2 weeks. And so if you're having trouble seeing whether or not you created any results, I recommend zooming out, okay? And this is a great thing to do, okay? And this is a really fairly neutral, I guess, task to do it with, which is a closet, okay? if you have been working on cleaning out your house, so like we've been working on decrapifying the house, as my dad used to say, decrapifying the house for about 18 months now. We started in like October of 2018 because that was the topic of the month with my coach, and we started decrapifying the house. And up until coronavirus, we're not really dropping stuff off at Goodwill during coronavirus, we got between probably 15 and 20 bags worth of stuff out of our house from October 2018 till I guess what, maybe our last trip was in January, maybe the end of January, and then I had some travel and things like that. But maybe in February. Okay. Were they all 15 bags? No, but some days we brought like 30. Okay, we had somebody pull up with a trailer and just like half fill a 15-foot trailer with old stuff. All right. Now, I will tell you, I walk downstairs into the basement, or I go down and I look at the mudroom hallway or my bedroom closet or whatever, okay, and I still feel overwhelmed, even though I can actually measure how much less stuff we have. But I know that I feel overwhelmed is 100% in my head. There is measurably less stuff in my life, and that is a great way to understand work. Okay. And so if you're trying to tell yourself the truth of your work situations, paid labor, unpaid labor, zoom out. Okay. And look at the things that you have done. You can have accomplished results like, we really organized half the basement I would say actually 3/4 of the basement really, really well. We have about another quarter of the basement to go, okay? So we have an accomplished result of 3/4 of the basement have shelves and things are neat and tidy on the shelves and things get back to the shelves and we can use the basement and all that sort of stuff. We tend to use it a little less in the winter because it's nice and cool in the summer, right? And so we have all of those things. And the impetus is to look at the stuff that you haven't done when it comes to work, okay? But we're going to go over this in week 6 when we talk about the after action process. But it's incredibly important to understand that we always default to what I haven't done. You stand up, okay, and I tell you to press against a wall and tell you you've done no work. Well, I think your heart would disagree. I mean, isometric exercises, like if I really press right here, okay, I'm doing no work when you look at the scale of my hands, but I promise you, if you look at the scale of my skin, and if you looked at, if you looked at my skin, if you could look at my skin under a scanning electron microscope or even a dissecting scope, you would see the dermal layers of my hands are flattened and have moved. Okay, so it is entirely possible to define work in a lot of different ways. And the impetus is to define work in ways that disempower you. The point of telling the truth is not to disempower you. The point of telling the truth is to allow the truth to be neutral. Nouns and verbs, okay? Nouns and verbs. That's the point of telling the truth, okay? And when you get to that point, you can evaluate without beating the snot out of yourself. Did you do what you said you were going to do? Okay, if I say I'm going to do 10 asks every day in my business, did I actually do that? If I say I'm going to go outside and I'm going to play frisbee with Molly for 15 minutes and help her develop her skills and tossing a disc, did I actually do that? Like, both of those things are work. And we either did them or we didn't do them, okay? And whether and how we think about doing them or not doing them is entirely, like our thoughts about ourselves in that space is completely and totally optional, okay? But we can't get to understanding how optional that is until we've got the nouns and the verbs, all right? So go do a time audit of yourself on all the ways that you spend your time, okay? It's a fascinating exercise. I probably do it well, I know I do it at least once a year, but I probably do it once a quarter or once every 6 months, when I feel like things are getting away from me. Okay. And then I look at the truth of the time. And then actually this year, I went back and I compared with last year's. And it's totally different. Like, I have so much more focus time. I'm so much more productive because I have taught myself to be. Because that's the, I mean, like, that's the end point of what we're talking about is we are teaching ourselves, we are developing capabilities in and around our lives. And that is an incredibly worthwhile thing to be doing. Okay. And so as you are going through, all you have to do is like jot down on a piece of paper. My sergeant, she used to carry around a notebook all the time. Just jot things down, or give yourself 10 minutes at the end of the day to just write down what you are doing, and then just do a thought download on it. Okay. The more you do, this is what I scheduled today, this is what I actually accomplished today, and this is what I think about it. This is like literally the work we're doing in the Power Group this week, or this month. What did I schedule? What did I actually do today? And what do I think about it? The ability to figure that out and to tell yourself the truth about your day will make you so much more productive in however you define that, okay? And I don't want to get into this like, very extroverted, left brain, capitalistic definition of productive, okay? Because it's very easy to do that. If you said you were going to sit down and read a book from 8 to 9 o'clock at night, did you actually do that? Or did you go on social media? Sure, maybe maybe they feel equally relaxing, but when we get to the point of planning protocols, showing up and doing what you said you were going to do is literally the ticket to having your own back and building confidence. Okay. And if you look historically, the application of work to our lives is one of the ways that we learn how to have our own back. It's one of the ways we learn how to understand who we are in the world, okay? And if you are able to tell yourself the truth of who that person is right now with presence and acceptance and sufficiency, then you'll be able to decide who you want that person to be in the future. All right, that's what we got for coaching today. Thank you for your tolerance at the top of the hour and trying to get the producer figured out. I think I will have to get on earlier tomorrow. I thought I didn't know they were rolling it out today, so I guess there's that. So we'll get on with a little more time tomorrow. So anyway, thank you so much, everybody, for joining me. Tomorrow we are diving into really telling ourselves the truth about our money. This is probably going to be very important if you're going for that paycheck protection program. All right. I love you all. You're completely amazing, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye.